Welcome to the Eminence Legacy Podcast, your ultimate destination for self-help, self-development, and inspirational stories. We are here to guide you on a transformative journey. In each episode, we'll dive into powerful insights, practical tips, and moving stories that will inspire and empower you to rise to your eminence. Join us as we unlock the secrets to personal growth, overcome challenges, and build the legacy you've always dreamed of. Get ready to elevate your life and reach new heights with the Eminence Legacy Podcast. Let's rise to our eminence together.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Eminence Legacy Podcast. My name is Alfonso Cadena, and I'm joined here by my co-host,
Jose Luis Cadena, and thank you for joining us.
All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. We've been reading a book, right? The Pat David, is that correct? I think it's
Yes.
pronounced Bet. Yeah. So I think it's pronounced Bet. But one of the things that I really appreciate about this one is about how he starts with the analogy about chess. Now, if you look at some of our earlier videos, the background I used to have was a bunch of board games. So I always thought, there was a lot of, aside from just entertainment and being able to spend a good time with your spouse or family or a game group, there's a lot of benefits that come from it. And that's one of the things that he uses this as part of his illustration, saying that in the game of chess, you have to be able to know 5 steps ahead in order for you to be like a successful chess player. And then there's a lot of terminology that goes around too. One of the things that comes about is about analysis paralysis, which is something that we hear in board gaming. And what that refers to is that, let's say it's finally your turn and everybody's already had their turn. And when it gets to that one person's turn, they could take 5-10 minutes on their turn, and it just makes a miserable experience for everybody else. So, and so it was interesting to see how he applied that, in the business context or in the mind of the entrepreneur, that a lot of times a person will not be hasty to make a decision with the information that they have, or the information that at least is easy to get a hold of at the moment, and be able to make a choice. Right. And that's something that we talk a lot about in previous podcasts too, when we talk about when it comes to setting goals, where you cannot be stuck in this position where you're just not making a choice. You need to do something. Otherwise, a month is going to pass by, 3 months is going to pass by, and you're never going to do anything about it. So we do need to develop that skill to be able to make decisions. So I know, I'm getting ahead of myself right now, but I just thought it was really a really interesting analogy. What's your take on it?
I actually think that one of the things that we're going to look at also is to analyze yourself and figure out the importance of self-knowledge, understanding oneself to be able to lay down the groundwork for effective decision making. When you become self-aware and you understand the things that you need to change within you to be able to get to those next steps, it's very important for you to make that deep dive into yourself and try to find out really what you're missing in the equation to be able to move forward with your next move. This past couple of weeks, I've been actually trying to analyze myself because I've been I've been mentally stuck with different things in my life, and I've been trying to overcome. But sometimes we're there, and even though we know we need to get out, kind of still need to, there's a lot of part of us that we don't understand completely, because there's a lot of things that we do, I guess, out of pure habit, a lot of things that we're just used to doing things a certain way. So until you sit down and take that deep dive to try to figure out, okay, who am I? That's when we could start actually some progress as far as your next couple of moves.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that he starts with too when during his discussion about how you can become effective in forming a strategy, having a game plan. A big part of it is knowing yourself, right? And this is going to be true, like, I mean, like, for example, like, let's say, going back to the chess analogy or any form of game analogy, it's like, I mean, you have, uh, I think particularly with tabletop, it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, you have your players that are, like, that are very aggressive. They love attacking other players. Meanwhile, there, you have the other type of player that's more like, I mean, building a system in the background. Making it efficient. You'll never hear about them during the game, only to realize that at the end they're actually quite on the lead, but they've been working on their own little system. Meanwhile, you have the other player that's like that is interacting with the rest of the table. So it's and it's one of those things that transfers into real life. I mean, like, what if you're going to be able to form a strategy for your business if you want to be able to succeed? A big part of it is being able to know yourself. So yeah, there's definitely questions that you need to be able to answer. So like, what matters for you the most? And that's going to be important because it's going to be shaping how much commitment or of a vision that you have. Just because one of the things that we tend to look at is that we look at the Jeff Bezos in the world, your Elon Musk, who these men who start off their businesses and they go on and build something huge out of it. That's not the commitment or the vision that all of us want. Some of us are just looking for being able to provide like a stable income each year, and that's fine. There is no right answer. But at the very least, you need to be able to figure out what is it as important for you. Is it is it the freedom that you have for your time, with your decision making? You want the security to rely on yourself, and based on what that matters to you, then you'll be able to determine the level of commitment and the vision that you have towards this goal.
Yeah, aligning your actions with your vision is very important. Like every day, ask yourself, is this getting me closer to where I want to be? Is this getting me to that place and space where I actually want to work and be? Because a lot of times is if we don't not take that approach, we kind of lose the sight on what we're trying to create.
Yeah, and then a lot of people also walk into this thinking that they need to have all the answers, and that's not necessarily the case because if you have all the answers, then you have no incentive to go out and learn, right? Having questions, I mean, it's a natural part of the process, and it's actually a good place to be because that means that you're opening your mind to be able to learn more about your trade that you're engaging in. And with that, you're going to be able to see improvement. But it's a huge blind side. If you think you have everything figured out, it's like the coworker that thinks that they do everything right because they don't know the job, but everybody that's seasoned that has been doing it for a while know that they're doing everything wrong.
Again, like you mentioned, that you don't need to know everything to actually start. There was a blank dot with the quote that he says, but basically what it comes down to is that the only way to, I guess, the only way to get ahead is to start, because a lot of times you want everything to line up and it's not gonna happen. I think as long as you have like 25-30% of understanding what you're gonna work on, that's enough for you to get started. And as you go, you pick up the tools that you need to be able to learn to do what you do to navigate through the different stages in your life.
Yeah, when you quantify it like that, it puts it into huge perspective because 25 to 30% is really not a lot, especially because I mean it's hard to wrap your mind around, but really you just need to jump into it, and and it goes back to what we were talking about your commitment and your vision, which is what's going to help you stick it through. Because I mean, yeah, I mean you might get a lot of no's right away. It might sound in the beginning like you don't know what you're talking about, but it's one thing that also comes up later on is like when you're surrounding yourself around the same people who want the same thing as you, what those initial feelings are going to be irrelevant in comparison to the progress that there's going to be because you're not going to see it right away. And that's the thing that, like, I mean, even if you look at your average film, like they try to fit it within an hour and a half. to 2 hours, right? And you're going to see like, I mean, you should know this because you love biopics. I don't watch biopics very often personally,
Yeah.
but it starts like, okay, protagonist has an idea, protagonist gets started. He has one, two failures, but the third time he's going to succeed, and by the end of the movie, everybody's happy. He's successful. That's typically the way we tend to create these narratives in our mind that the people that we know, one moment they're barely getting started, they sound like the crazy person around the block, and next thing you know, they're actually doing pretty well for themselves. In reality, like that person, it took a huge commitment and vision on their part because they weren't being held back by other people's conceptions because they already had their vision in mind.
Yeah, the quote I was thinking about is with Zig Ziglar. It says, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." And with that
Mm.
said, you do have to just start and then analyze like everything, like navigate your choices and knowing what you're gonna pursue. I guess understand what's important and what's not important because a lot of times we focus a lot on the small stuff that's not important. So we just need to kind of develop that game plan.
Yeah, one of the things that was pretty interesting that he brought up, and I hadn't really heard it used as a strategy, is the use of envy, right? Now, like we know envy as like, as something that we shouldn't live with because, like it creates bitterness, and it like leads to, being hurtful or harmful towards other people, but the way he's using it in the book is actually pretty interesting because it's more of an envy of like, he's not saying to dwell in it, but more of using it as a type of like a sixth sense, if you will, like a way to determine what it is that what it is that you want and what you're trying to do. So if you look at someone's life that's perhaps has like like a larger business, but you see the responsibility that comes with it, you might think to yourself, yeah, that's not necessarily what I want. I'm looking more for this. So if you don't envy the person, then it's because you don't want what they have, but the ones you do envy, then it would be a good way to direct you to what it is that you're aiming for. What did you get take out of that spot?
Well, actually, I think it's one of those things that you have to embrace the challenges, and that's one of them. It's like my take on that. I've always had a similar approach. It's similar because the way I would think is like it's not a matter. Um, so if I want it, I'm gonna like if I want it, you have it. I'm gonna get it. So basically my motto has been is like never question is it possible to get it, but how are you going to get it? So a lot of times is that you kind of want to focus on use those people as inspiration to be able to develop your plan and see, okay, you know what, it is not impossible because somebody else has done it, and I do like what they have going for themselves, and I want that for myself. It's no different than having to hate yourself in order to change. A lot of times I think if you're not in a position where you hate the situation that you're in and you hate yourself enough to make that move to change, then you're going to get stuck there and be comfortable with it. I think it's the same thing with the envy part that he used. I actually like it because normally you hear it in a negative tone, and here it's actually using it as fuel for you to actually have a goal in mind.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because even with the other example that you made a parallel with about hating yourself, it's like you're right. Like they're both always heard like in negative context. So actually hearing them like in a way that's actually productive, it's interesting. And I guess the difference between one person or the other is that you'll have one person that will just will do nothing about it, just stay content, unambitious, without a vision, versus the other person, he's just using it as a way to find the next step that they're going to land to. Like I think of it like a little like a like a metal detector, right? Like, I mean, you find a little piece of gold, and I mean, you find where to dig, and you're gonna start digging, right? I mean, that's call it greed or whatever, but that's how we're wired to be able to excel and to do more with ourselves. And you see it a lot. A really clear example of this is with like you talk to people that are approaching retirement, right? And they don't know what to do with the retirement after they get to that point. They think that a person is content, simply by doing nothing. But I believe that, like, I mean, valuable from work, that we feel that we find meaning and purpose, when we're serving other people, when we're helping others, and when we're part of a community. So, so it's we cannot just exist in this state where we don't do anything, because it leads to very unhealthy lifestyle. I mean, and it's like, I mean, you see the person that ends up living the longer life is the after retirement is the one that typically is the one that finds a purpose, and finds something to fill their time with.
I think it's you need to invest time in something, and it needs to be something other than yourself. One thing that I've been, I guess, thinking about lately is that we need to. We're not individualistic people. We're not individualistic people. We actually have to be more than that. It's not about just us, it's about the people that we come in contact with. Because if you're just an individual person, then your goals and whatever you do are going to be very limited. And your dreams are probably going to be very, very small because they don't include a lot. I mean, honestly, how much can you need as a person to survive? Versus if you're trying to develop something bigger for people that you care about, let's say that like your family, you want to take care of your parents and you want to do this and that for them, you need to develop a bigger dream, a bigger plan, a bigger goal, because you're no longer just self. It's more about, okay, what's a bigger picture here?
Right. And yeah, and so that I guess we should move on to the next point, right? Which is the ability to reason. And and I like that he talks about this because it's just true in all things. I mean, there's no issue that's going to be black or white, right? There's going to be the good and the ugly with it, and but a lot of times, we might get stuck in those decisions like we talked about earlier, So how is it that we're going to approach, when it's time to make that like a new decision? Um, because it's not going to be black or white. How can so like and he gives us tools, to how to be more effective with decision making. And one of the things is that like you're not going to know anything and like everything. And just like what we talked about earlier, you only need 25 to 30%. Of the information. So what based on the information that you have right now, or let's say you just get, I mean, in the age of technology, I mean, you can get information a lot more quicker, but the one of the main test is going to be is if you're going to be able to make the decision, like and if you're going to be willing to take the responsibility for it. We can't be getting stuck on the details. We at the end of the day, like if we're going to survive, we're going to need to make the decisions. And I like the way that he breaks this and he sets them into two different categories, which is offense or defense. Which is what did you get out of that?
You only have two choices, and you just have to again strategize to see what you're going to be applying at that very moment, because a lot of times we get on the offense when you should be actually on the defense on situations, and vice versa. And this happens a lot because we're not comfortable a lot of times making those decisions or facing confrontation. And one of the things that confrontation doesn't have to be again negative, but sometimes you just, like they say, you have to grab the bull by the horns and make those tough decisions.
Right, yeah. And what we mean by that is, so offense is advancing, like, so your offense is going to be when you're advancing your business, and versus defense is when you're solving problems and protecting your business. So when you basically when you engage in entrepreneurship, like every decision is going to fall into one of these two camps. And that's helpful information, because I mean, one of the things where we talk about, let's say when we talk about time management, is being able to find shortcuts, right? So we're limited to how many decisions we can make per day. So if you have a template, or preset decisions already set for you ahead of time, and then you're reducing the amount of decisions that you have to make per day. And I really like this strategy, because I mean, it summarizes, like, it puts you in a state of mind for each decision that you're going to have to make in relation to your business. So I thought that was a really good tool.
Yeah, always when you face with a problem or a situation, ask why at least 5 times to reach the actual cause, and try to take a deep dive to clarify the solution, and then use visual tools to brainstorm the problems and try to navigate through those potential solutions that you might have.
Yeah, the why, for sure. Yeah, that I highlighted that part too, where he talks about that there's always, you keep following the why until you get to the same answer. There's no possible other answer that you can give because you've already got to the root cause of the issue. And then once again, it gives you like a way to respond, and continue to grow your business. Like it's very thorough. It's like very practical. One of the parts that also stood out to me is that we need to stop seeing like referring to people as people, but more as a person. Because each person is going to be, they're gonna have different feelings. They might have different goals. They might have even different ways that you can show your gratitude or to motivate them. Just because you like let's say gift giving, doesn't mean that everybody does. Like everybody has their own like a love language, if you will, right? Like, I mean, they have different ways of showing um of share that they're of feeling that they're cared for, whether it's through words of affirmations or whatnot. So I thought that was really insightful too.
I think this is where you apply your active listening skills. Make a conscious effort to listen to people, valuing their input and fostering their collaboration and whatever they're telling you. And we've heard it many times and say that's why you have 2 years. That way you could hear more, and you only have a mouth, so you could talk less, right? But usually a lot of times we talk over people and not want to listen to them, and this kind of could affect us, our progress, because a lot of times people are dropping jewels, they're actually dropping gems, and if you pay attention to it, maybe you don't like everything that they have to say or everything that they're like about, but a lot of these people have special gifts that we might learn to acquire later.
Exactly right. So when it comes to forming your team and surrounding yourself around the same people, I mean, a lot of the work is also going to be being able to identify the gifts that other people are gifted with. How do you make them feel, right? Able to make their lives easier for them is going to be an investment that is going to take work, but it's those are the people that are also going to have your back. All right. So that ends this week's episode. If you would like more information, we do have a blog on eminencelegacylife.com. So make sure you pay that a visit, where you could also book coaching sessions. Don't forget to if you like programming like this, to go ahead and make a donation at the Patron, like available in the show notes. And everyone, have a great week.
Reflect on what resonated with you today. Take one action, no matter how small, and apply it to your daily life. Share this episode with someone and make sure to leave us a review. Thank you for tuning in and committing to your growth. Keep striving, stay intentional, and remember, your next move can redefine everything. Until next time, take care and keep moving forward. Thank you for joining us, and happy holidays, and hopefully everybody stays safe and stays warm out there. And thank you for joining us, and together, let's rise to our eminence.
All right. Have a good one. Bye bye.